Good afternoon. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 5:06. This will take us to item number 2, the Pledge of Allegiance. You can please stand. And if you can join us for a moment of silence. Thank you. This will take us to item 4, recognitions.
Good evening, Board President Irabali, board members, and Superintendent Saavedra. Our recognitions this evening highlight individuals and groups from all over our stakeholders who take pride and represent El Paso ISD. For our first recognition this evening, we would like to recognize Dwayne Gully, Lead School Liaison Officer for Fort Bliss, for advocating for military students and families. He has been a great supporter of El Paso ISD. As a school liaison lead, he's been instrumental in fostering a positive relationship between El Paso ISD and Fort Bliss. He has served on numerous El Paso ISD committees and provided student ambassador training, along with other military-related training for all of our campuses. Mr. Gully served 20 years in the Army with the Air Defense Systems. After retiring, he became a military family liaison in El Paso ISD and served military families at Andress High School, Nixon Elementary, at Richardson Middle. Please join me in showing our appreciation with a huge round of applause. Thank you. Our next recognition is for our talented fine arts students who competed in the UIL regional competition. The Austin High School Theater, made up of 17 students, was the first 4A school in the borderland to win the UIL one-act play area competition and advance to regionals. The one-act play entitled Antigone wowed the judges and eliminated the competition of over 20 other schools in the city. Let's congratulate these talented students with a big round of applause. You didn't know?
No, nobody told me. The recognition.
Congratulations. Please welcome Mr. Call for the next recognition.
The board would like to take this opportunity to recognize everyone in the staff who is involved with Destination District Redesign meeting planning and implementation. The redesign is the deliberate evaluation and adjustment of our programs, facilities, and resources to ensure that they align with the needs of our students and our communities. It's about optimizing and reallocating resources to better serve our students, educators, and community. It's about ensuring that every last dollar spent, every program offered, and every facility utilized is in the service of our overarching goal to provide every child with the opportunity to thrive and succeed. We know that it's not an easy feat to make this redesign conversation happen. There were 10 meetings, one at every high school, with well over 1,200 participants. The board appreciates all of your hard work and commitment to this transformative framework. Please join me in expressing our appreciation to the team for communications, IT, high school principals, leadership, and equity and stakeholder engagement. Will everyone that was involved please come up?
I appreciate it. All right. Our final recognition this evening is to all the staff that made graduation ceremony successful. I had the pleasure of attending every graduation this year and got to realize the real value of having this leadership team put on such amazing graduations for each and every one of our students. Doesn't matter your background, which high school you went to, you had an amazing experience, and that was due to the work. So we know it was a great effort that made this planning of all 13 ceremonies with students varying over $117 million in scholarships, and we saw the efforts from every corner of our district. From our police department making sure that everyone was safe, our communications department for telling the story of the students that were walking across, our district staff working behind the scenes to coordinating scripts and keeping everyone well and hydrated for the long hours. Our work never finished, and we looked forward to next year's graduation. Please give the communication staff, high school principals, and school leadership a big round of applause and welcome us up there for another picture. Thank you, everyone. This will take us to item number 5, public forum. If you can please direct your attention to the screens for a quick message.
The district is a local government body charged with serving the educational needs of all school children in our district, and board meetings must be focused on meeting this charge. In meeting that charge, the district board meetings are public meetings under the Texas Open Meetings Act to conduct the business of the district. They are not, however, meetings of the public. Therefore, all persons in attendance are expected to display civility and decorum, that is, respect for other persons, without the use of insulting, profane, threatening, or abusive language. Public comment will not be used for personal attacks. In addition, you are directed to the district's complaint procedures and board policy regarding employee, student, parent, or public complaints. The Deputy Superintendent of Administration is in attendance if you wish to discuss a matter with him. Please note that during public forum, specific factual information or recitation of existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries. However, the board may not deliberate or decide any subject that is not posted on its agenda. El distrito es el organismo de gobierno local encargado de atender las necesidades educativas de todos los niños en edad escolar en nuestro distrito, y las reuniones de la Junta deben centrarse en el cumplimiento de este cargo. En el cumplimiento de ese cargo, las reuniones de la Junta del Distrito son reuniones públicas bajo la Ley de Reuniones Abiertas de Texas para llevar a cabo los negocios del distrito. Sin embargo, no son reuniones del público. Por lo tanto, se espera que todas las personas que asistan muestren civismo y decoro, es decir, respeto por otras personas sin el uso de lenguaje insultante, profano, amenazante o abusivo. Los comentarios públicos no se utilizarán para ataques personales. Además, usted está dirigido a los procedimientos de queja del distrito en la política de la Junta con respecto a los empleados, estudiantes, padres o quejas públicas. Tenga en cuenta que durante el foro público la información fáctica, específica o citación de la política existente puede ser proporcionada en respuesta a las preguntas. Sin embargo, la Junta no puede deliberar o decidir sobre cualquier tema que no está publicado en su orden del día.
Trustee Hernandez?
Norma de la Rosa.
Good afternoon, Mr. Robley, members of the board, Ms. Saavedra. I am Norma De La Rosa, President of El Paso Teachers Association. I have addressed this board and the administration way too many times now of my serious concern of retaliation in this district. Let me remind you that retaliation of any kind, subtle or obvious, is clearly a violation of district policy and state law. And when retaliation is committed by an education employee, it is a violation of the Educator Code of Ethics. I have expressed my concern that retaliation is well and good in EPISD and that it must stop. But every time that it is investigated, somehow or other, it is swept under the rug by administration, and interestingly, they never find any evidence. However, this time it can't and it won't be swept under the rug because that retaliation and targeting was done by 2 central office administrators, and too many people, teachers and office staff, either witnessed it or on the receiving end of that retaliation and targeting. How unprofessional and unethical for 2 central office administrators to use their title and position to bully employees over a period of several days, to distort events and conversations and report them to the superintendent in such a manner that administrators and campus faculty and staff were made to look like the villains, and everything that they reported was real and true. It's a sad day when employees in this district fear to speak up when they see a need to right a wrong, to ask questions of either their campus or district administration to understand why certain decisions are made, or just a need to express their opinion whether the other party agrees or not. The superintendent has stated since she came that one of her priorities was to change the culture. What happened at Hawkins Elementary is definitely not one of changing the culture in this district as to how central office personnel treat and respect their employees in this district. Rather, it is going backwards and becoming now of employees being told in so many words to be submissive to whatever it is they are directed to do. And if not, there will be consequences. To accuse employees of being disrespectful and rude when it was the other way around. But again, this district hears only one side of the story. No more. What happened to the faculty and staff at Hawkins, the retaliation, the targeting, being interrogated, and yes, I use the word interrogated, by these same 2 administrators over a period of several days. Threats of being moved to other campuses if they didn't cooperate. This all stops now. This behavior will no longer be tolerated by any EPISD employee. They will no longer fear to speak up. In closing, I am not asking, I am demanding that an investigation into the behavior and actions of these 2 administrators be conducted by an outside entity to ensure the integrity of the investigation and its results. And I know that the results won't be swept under the rug again.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms. De
you.
La Rosa. Lionel Menchaca III.
Hello, good evening. My name is Leonel Menchaca, and I am a father of 2 children at Hawkins Elementary, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the San Juan community, a neighborhood in El Paso that has long struggled with poverty and minimal resources. Our community is often overlooked, and our needs are neglected. This is evident in the case of the San Juan Rec Center, which was closed from March 2020 when COVID started until October 2023. For over 3 years, this vital community resource remained inaccessible to our children and families. Its prolonged closure, however, is a stark reminder of the neglect our community faces. In this context of limited resources and persistent challenges, Hawkins Elementary School has been a beacon of hope. This transformation is largely due to the dedication and leadership of Ms. Reese, our principal for many years. Under her guidance, Hawkins Elementary has become a blue ribbon school, a remarkable achievement given the socioeconomic hurdles our students face daily. Ms. Reese has not only improved academic performance, but has also fostered a supportive and nurturing environment for our children. However, at the end of this past school year, without any prior notice to our community any prior notice or community involvement, the EPISD leadership decided to reassign Ms. Reese. This decision was made abruptly, leaving no opportunity for us to ask questions, voice concerns, or lobby complaints. Our community was excluded from a decision that significantly impacts our children's education and well-being. This lack of transparency and disregard for our input is deeply troubling. Other schools in more affluent areas have been afforded time and opportunities for community involvement in similar situations. Why not us? Is it because we're in a poor neighborhood? This decision feels like a slap in the face, suggesting that our voices don't matter. This decision has also set a highly unfortunate precedent and serves as a poor example for our children. Moreover, it seems that politics, favoritism, and even nepotism have influenced this decision rather than the best interests of our children. Staff members who have spoken out against this move have faced retaliation, creating an atmosphere of fear and suppression. Our children deserve better. They deserve stability, respect, and a leadership team that listens to their values and values their community. By reassigning Ms. Reese without our input, you have undermined the educational environment she worked so hard to create and have disrespected our entire community. We demand the same respect and consideration that other schools receive. We demand transparency and involvement in decisions that impact our kids' futures. This board has a responsibility to ensure that all communities are treated equitably, regardless of socioeconomic status. If it's not too late, I urge you to reconsider this decision and engage our community openly and respectfully. Let us work together to ensure that Hawkins Elementary and the San Juan neighborhood continue to
Mr.
thrive.
Menchaca.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Joshua Alexander Aguilar. Joshua Alexander Aguilar. Samantha Lopez.
Good evening. On May 31st, 2024, we were called to a meeting that would forever alter the dynamics of our campus. During this meeting, we were informed that our beloved campus leader would be transferred to another campus. Heartbroken, I voiced my concerns alongside most of the faculty and staff. Our sentiments, however, were met with a shockingly cold and hostile response. We faced loud and aggressive retorts such as, "You're disrespectful," "You're rude," "What do you teach?" "I can't believe you teach." It was disheartening to see our genuine concerns dismissed with such disdain. This decision, they declared, was final. When we sought clarity and asked questions, they were left unanswered. Instead, district leadership, clearly angered, delivered a chilling message. Your contract is with the district, not the campus. We can move you wherever we need to or see fit. One of our colleagues, brave enough to ask a question, was met with a stern, almost dismissive, "I see you and I hear you." Within just 3 days of our campus expressing its collective heartbreak, our leadership was demoted, our assistant principal reassigned, and faculty member was transferred under the pretext of being displaced 5 years prior. For those 3 days, I felt targeted and intimidated. District leadership returned to our campus, falsely accusing us of being hostile and disrespectful, claiming they were driven away by our behavior. It felt more like an interrogation than a discussion, with veiled threats of displacements hanging over our heads. I speak from personal experience when I say that I know I am the next target. Having faced retaliation from one of these leaders before, I fear that my standing up on May 31st has made me a target. They may use some loophole to bully and intimidate me into silence, but I stand here today to shed light on this injustice. Despite this, I stand here to voice the truth. The actions taken against our campus are unjust and have created a toxic atmosphere. We should be able to express our concerns and seek answers without fear of retaliation. Our goal is to foster a positive and supportive educational environment, and that cannot be achieved under the current conditions of intimidation and fear. It is essential that we come together, not only as a community, but a Rams community, to support each other and advocate our rights. The well-being of our students, faculty, and staff depends on our ability to work in a safe and respectful environment. Thank you for listening, and I urge you all to stand with us.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Monica Casas. Monica Casas. Ross Moore.
Board President Irabali, board members, Ms. Saavedra, my name is Ross Moore, President, El Paso AFT. I rise to speak in favor of providing all EPISD employees a $2,000 winter stipend and a $2,000 end-of-year stipend drawn from the general fund balance and/or building sales. It is time for EPISD to invest in the rank-and-file people that keep this district functioning through the near-perpetual cycles of change, turmoil, and stress. It is time for EPISD to invest in the rank-and-file people that have kept and do keep this district's students learning and thriving against the odds despite grown-up initiated cycles of change, turmoil, and stress. They have provided the district with free labor the district could not function without. I sent you a copy of an email I sent to my members on Tuesday entitled Napkin Math and Your Free Labor. Y'all have received a copy of it. Ms. Hernandez, thank you for your response. Based on just 10 hours a week of free labor, a plurality of my members reported they work above the 40-hour duty week. They give you 7.42 school years of free labor over a 30-year career. The dollar value of this is what the employees must work to keep their jobs over that 30-year career is $464,885.26. That is $15,469.16 a year of free labor district gets. The stark cost, the one that bothered me the most, that's 3.8 years of their lives. There are also as many reporting 15 extra hours and 20 extra hours, which would increase the totals. You need the rank and file people of EPISD to continue to function and become a true destination district, not just one in name only. The rank and file people are the backbone of your district, and the rank and file people are watching you. On Monday, you will be sending them one of two very clear messages, whether you want to or not. They will be listening carefully and making decisions. The first message you can send is, you are valued people, and for the district to succeed and thrive, we must invest in you. Second is, you are just human capital, and you're our last priority, and be grateful you are even a priority. I ask you to send the first message to the rank and file people of this district. There's an old Army truism I had hammered into my thick head from the first morning as a buck private until the day I retired as a lieutenant colonel after over 26 years. This is the very, very polite civilian version. Take care of your troops, and they will take care of you. Don't take care of your troops, and they won't take care of you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Please take care of your troops, approve a winter and end-of-year stipend. Thank you very much.
Dora Garcia. Dora Garcia. Rosa Isela Olivas.
Good afternoon to all you school board members. Thank you. My name is Rosa Olivas, and I'm currently a paraprofessional at EPISD. I'm here because 2 months ago, I got a call from Human Resources telling me that I had been placed in the wrong job title along with a wrong pay rate since 2017. That's 7 years ago. Okay, I feel that I have been serving the students' priority above everything else, and I've also been a loyal employee. I never questioned it before because I went on good faith that I had been placed in the right job title and the right pay. I have been talking to Human Resources, and no agreement of compensation pay has been agreed on. I have talked to Human Resources Supervisor, sent an email to Mr. Iribaldi, and along with Ms. Saavedra, and I have had no response from the school board. I had response from the supervisor of the Human Resources, but nothing was agreed on pay, compensation pay. That's 7 years of my work. I'm here to be heard and for this issue to be resolved in a just and timely manner. I'm not the only one affected, but I'm the one representing my co-workers here and my peers. I really hope that this can be fixed soon and that they can come to an agreement as to those 7 years that I worked underpaid and in the wrong job title. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Olivas. Cynthia Hernandez.
Good afternoon, distinguished board and members, and Ms. Saavedra. I'm here to talk about the retaliation and intimidation tactics that were used by EPISD central office personnel due to the events that occurred May 31st at Hawkins. We were blindsided by the announcement that our principal would be promoted to a middle school as principal. We were naturally emotional because the change is always hard. Good, loving, and supportive administrators are hard to come by, and the culture in our school is irreplaceable. We received a message from admin to be at the library at 3:30. Since typically we don't have faculty meetings, a teacher walked in and asked, "Are we a blue ribbon school again?" During the meeting, the questions and concerns were kindly dismissed by shrugging of their shoulders. "You are just EPISD employees," they say, "and you work for the district, not a campus." At times, we felt disrespected with the shrugging of their shoulders. A teacher asked if our campus was on the school closure list. Central office personnel answered, "Who told you that?" in a tone instead of just giving us a professional response. We moved on, and we did understand that our principal would no longer be on our campus. So someone asked, "Is our AP going to be given the opportunity to be the new principal?" They simply said no, and the decision is final. And someone asked, "Well, who are they going to place?" As they informed us that our new leader was coming from a struggling campus, that only raised more questions and concerns. A faculty member asked, "Why are they placing a struggling principal at our campus?" The two ladies became pretty upset, and immediate response was, "What do you teach? Why are you being so rude?" Someone responded, "We're not trying to be rude. We just want answers." So our faculty will continue to work with our students and support our leader in any way that we can to make the transition easier. We are professionals and welcoming campus. We started to get emotional when one of our members continued to say how Ms. Reese had changed her life and had the love for teaching had come back since her previous administration had really bullied her pretty badly. If it's all up to you guys can go with her, they said, but most of us don't have middle school certifications. Our voices and opinions felt like they were never being heard, and we were just constantly being called that we were being rude and we were being loud. I personally felt attacked, and I did speak, and I did say, "Does the district just want us to be mediocre employees?" One of the central office personnel looked right at me and mumbled to me, "I see you and I hear you." At that point, I felt bullied and in fear of retaliation. Well, the retaliation did come on Tuesday, June 4th, when I was placed at a different campus. Mental health and SEL is a big concern in our district. I strongly believe that on May 31st, that concern was not taken into consideration by the lack of empathy. Instead, they continued to engage with us and intimidate us during the meeting. They continued to show that lack of disrespect 2 days in a row after they kept talking to employees. They informed some of the employees that they could find them new jobs if they did not do the work that they were instructed to do. We are all scared and are still fearing retaliation. In closing, I have worked for the district for 31 years. I have never been told that I'm just an employee so many times and feeling intimidated. As a result, our principal now has been demoted.
Thank you. Norma Alexander Plexer.
Good afternoon, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. As I read this statement, I am worried about retaliation, as I have seen it happen already. On May 31st, 2024, the faculty and staff at Hawkins Elementary were called to a meeting. The meeting began by two district leaders talking about changes within the district. Then we were told that our principal will be moved to a different campus. Immediately after this statement, faculty and staff were in disbelief and questions arose. The demeanor of the district leaders was defensive and would answer shrugging their shoulders. The decision has been made. As more questions arose, their answers were, "What do you teach? You are rude." At Hawkins, we are a family. The news hurt each one of us. We were not rude. We were expressing our feelings and concerns, and I believe we should have a right to do so without fear of retaliation. As we asked if our opinion mattered at all, the answer again was, the decision has been made. Our administration has been amazing to our community. They are committed to giving their best daily, no matter what the situation is. Under their leadership, we have been able to tackle everything that as educators we face daily because we feel supported. That Friday, the leaders visiting our campus agreed that our administration was the best. The following Tuesday, our principal got demoted and our AP was removed from our campus. Within the next couple of days, one more teacher received a letter stating her transfer, and another teacher was warned that her transfer letter would be on the way. Hawkins is a blue ribbon campus, not only because we have great teachers, but also due to the effort and hard work of our administration, who have been great leaders. At Hawkins, our students are not just a number. We are a united community. As educators, we need to feel supported and heard. However, right now, we just feel targeted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Plexer. Margaret Gallardo.
Good afternoon, President Ibarli, board members, Ms. Saavedra. I am Margaret Gallardo, 23-year employee, special education resource inclusion teacher at Moreno, and the vice president of El Paso Teacher Association. The reason I am speaking to you this evening is to bring to light the fact that even when you have an ESL certification and service bilingual students, you will not receive that stipend because those are for teachers of record. This would be applicable to SPED teachers, inclusion resource, interventionists, librarians, DRD teachers, counselors, and any other teacher that is not the teacher of record. Not being the teacher of record does not negate the fact that we do indeed service bilingual students. Sometime after the October intersession of the 22-23 school year, I was instructed by the district that I needed to take a 2-day training for the ESL exam. I signed an affidavit stating that I would take and pass the exam. On December 29th of 2022, I did take it and I did pass. Imagine my surprise when I reached out to HR and I was informed that per the extra performance pay instructional stipend, I was not eligible to receive it because I am not the teacher of record. But I am the case manager of record for all of my monolingual and bilingual SPED students on my caseload. I service bilingual students in both resource and in co-teach classes. When I go into a dual language classroom as a co-teacher, I am working with the entire class, which is more than one bilingual student. The reason I am bringing this to you today is that if the district is going to make certifications mandatory, then it should be expected that the stipend attached to it would be automatic. Even if it is not mandatory, any teacher with an ESL or bilingual certification that is working with EB students should be properly compensated. Many of us work with ESL students daily without the stipend. This does not change the fact that we use dual language strategies, and as professionals, we will always do what is best for our students. Please amend the language to exclude teacher of record on the extra performance pay instructional stipends for bilingual and/or ESL certified personnel and all other sections pertaining to teacher of record if the individual is serving EB students, or simply add us to the schedules and make us their teachers of record. Before closing, I would like to thank you, Ms. Saavedra, and several members of the board for always being so attentive when people come to speak in public forum. It is extremely nerve-wracking, whether it is your first time or your 100th time speaking before this distinguished board. The fact that many of you are listening to your constituents and not on your phone or giggling inside conversations is truly and sincerely appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Alonso Rene Mendoza.
Good afternoon, Board President Irawali, Superintendent Saavedra, APIZ Board of Trustees. My name is Alonso Mendoza. I'm a union organizer with the El Paso Teachers Association. I'm here to raise concerns on behalf of our custodian members regarding recently proposed changes to their work hours. It has been brought to our attention that the district has notified custodians that they will be entering and leaving work at later hours. Why were these changes made? And why were custodians not asked to give their input about these changes? Custodians have raised legitimate concerns about leaving work at later hours, including not being able to access public transportation late at night to return to their homes, as well as safety concerns of being out in the streets late at night, especially for women. Also, for those custodians that are parents and heads of their households, how are they going to provide dinner, help with homework, and supervise their children after they get out of school? These changes would make it impossible for parents to see their children and to enjoy leisure time with them during the week. EPIZ is already struggling to be fully staffed with custodians, and these changes will make this situation even worse. They will leave EPIZ to work with other districts that have more respectful work hours. If one of the reasons for proposing these time changes is lack of schools' cleanliness, that is more than likely due to the current shortage of custodians in the district, as well as the fact that schools have to wait up to 3 days to get substitute custodians. We'd also like to raise a concern of the disrespect that custodians are being treated with. We have been told that when custodians raise their concerns regarding the work hour changes during a meeting with Custodial Services Director Amanda Grijalva, she told them, quote, "If you don't like it, there's the door," end quote. This kind of treatment is only going to make this shortage worse, not better. If a custodian talked to Ms. Grijalva that way, I bet they would be written up and punished in some manner. Just because she's a director doesn't mean that Ms. Grijalva should get away with treating employees with such callousness. A more effective and long-term solution to the problem of custodial shortage is to make working conditions better for custodians, not to worsen them. If you want to attract people to work with EPISD and not repel them, the district must not make changes to custodians' working hours and must ensure that they are being treated with dignity and respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Amenzaga.
My glasses on. I didn't bring them.
Ms. Saavedra, Board President Irobali, and members of the board. My name is Patricia Amesaga, and I am here before you to advocate for a raise for EPISD's athletic trainers. I've been here before. I've explained to you their hours, their work duties, everything that they do for our students. But today, I'm here to talk about in the budget workshop, it looks like there is a proposal for approximately a $3,500 pay raise. That would put the trainers at a stipend of about $10,000. So that would put them at only $10,000 less than the other districts in our area. I am asking that you approve this raise as a starting point, but please do not add any extra duties or extra days on duty. All of the trainers work unbelievable hours each week. They care for hundreds of athletes on a daily basis. A raise with additional days or duties really doesn't sound like a raise. They have seen very little raises in pay over the years, and they are very deserving of at least this $3,500 without strings attached. I believe that we have the most highly qualified trainers in the city. 6 of them have master's degrees. 13 of them are nationally certified. Most of them have been dedicated employees of EPISD for decades. Soon they will all move on, And in order to attract trainers of this caliber that we have now, you need to pay them a fair wage and let them know how much they are valued. Please approve the raise in their stipends, but please do it without any days or more duties. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Sepulveda. Melissa Sepulveda. Cassandra Arayos.
Good evening, El Paso ISD board members and Superintendent Saavedra. My name is Cassandra Arroyos, and I have been a teacher at Hawkins Elementary for the past 9 years. I am speaking here today to recount the events that occurred on May 31st at the Hawkins campus. On Friday, May 31st, all staff and faculty received a message to attend a meeting after school. When we arrived, 2 women from central office were standing at the head of the library while our school administration sat at the tables. The women promptly began the meeting by explaining to us the district's definition of what a leader is, followed by the sudden announcement of the removal of Ms. Reese as our principal of Hawkins. This announcement caught the whole staff and faculty off guard, and it was very evident. We talked amongst ourselves as well as asking questions aloud to the women hosting the meeting. Several people voiced their concerns about what would happen to us and to Hawkins. These concerns were quickly dismissed and shut down by the 2 women running the meeting. We received answers such as, "You are all employees of the district, not the school. You should be here for the students, and you would expect your students not to talk back and to be respectful." During this meeting, I felt insignificant. I understand that changes are made during the course of individual careers. However, the content of the news was overshadowed by the manner it was presented. Ms. Reese and Ms. Ortiz have spent 12 years fostering a supportive and inclusive environment for both staff and students alike. Under their guidance, Hawkins has thrived in academic achievements and is currently a positive and productive setting. This is the type of school I want my daughter to attend. You will not find a member of our team that doesn't support this. The reactions were never about the incoming principal, it was about losing ours. We felt like we lost a family member when this announcement was made, and giving us time to process the information in our own way would have been appreciated. The demotion of our principal and the removal of our assistant principal and a teacher show us that our voice doesn't matter. Our school had no input on the change of placement of our administration and no say in hiring of the new administration. Other schools in the district have had public protests regarding a change in administration. Were they treated equally as harsh? What causes the difference in treatment? The disregard for our community does not go unnoticed. On Friday, May 31st, central office personnel had such high praise for our beloved principal, but by Tuesday, June 4th, the perception of her leadership skills changed so significantly that she was demoted. It's mind-blowing that a 30-minute meeting that the central office personnel held on our campus was able to change the trajectory of these women's careers through retaliation. Thank you.
Thank you. Cassandra Arroyos. Oh, that was her. Sorry. Keith Fung. Keith Fung.
Okay, this will take us to item number 6, which is consent. We have speakers on items 6I14 and 6G, so I'll be pulling those. Are there any other items, trustees, that you would like pulled?
Can you repeat those items, please?
6I14, 6G. And I will be pulling 6J1 through 6J8 and 6K1.
What was the last one?
6K1. If there's no others, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by trustee Hanani, a second by trustee Call. All in favor? Aye. That item passes 6-0 with trustee Cuellar not present. This will take us to item 6G, and I have two speakers on this item. The first will be Dr. Hilda Ontiveros, and then followed by Melissa Ortega. Hello, and the same rules apply, 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Board President, board members, and Mrs. Saavedra. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here in front of you today. UTEP Women's Studies has sponsored DI, dual language summer camp t-shirts, athletic jerseys for several middle school and high schools in EPISD, have installed feminine hygiene pantries at EPISD to combat period poverty in our community, and donated books for women's history libraries at district schools. However, the question always is, how do we do more to support EPISD and its students as they pursue a higher education? While we are sitting at UTEP, how can we do more to pull EPISD students through the door? How do we bridge higher education with EPISD secondary students? How do we pull EPISD students through the door, empower and involve them in the curricular and pedagogical processes at UTEP? We have an answer. Over the period of a year, we have developed a proposal with a panel of experts, including Dr. Jessie Arrieta, a curriculum expert and facilitator at the district, Dr. Melissa Ortega, State Board of Education representative and Women's Studies professor, and Dr. Cynthia Ontiveros, YWA principal. We created a proposal that you see in front of you today in order to bridge these gaps and to help students at the university level. And what we're currently doing is making these students content experts in AP courses like AP English at YWA. So what they do under the guidance of Rebecca Guerrero and UTEP Women's Studies is they become research experts with their projects that they have to present to get AP credit. And then they teach it at the college level at UTEP in courses such as Introduction to Women's Studies, Women's Health, Masculinities, and other very popular courses at the university. So we're bringing them over, and they're kind of installed as mini professors, helping us to teach the curriculum from their perspective. Thank you so much for having me here today, and I hope that you kindly consider our proposal so that it can move forward at the state level.
Thank you, Dr. Ontiveros. And my apologies before, it's Dr. Ortega next.
Good afternoon, members of the board and Superintendent Saavedra. It is an honor to be here today. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Melissa Ortega, a member of the Texas State Board of Education, representing our Texas border and the Rio Grande Valley, and I'm thrilled to introduce our new innovative course proposal, Unveiling Herstory, Women's Historical Significance and Voices. As an advocate for women's studies across the state of Texas, including at the Young Women's STEAM Research and Preparatory Academy, I'm passionate about enriching our curriculum to reflect the diverse and significant contributions of women throughout history. Women's history examines women's roles, achievements, and the impact of historical events, highlighting how cultural expectations and patriarchy cause damage. It challenges traditional narratives that often overlook women's contributions and promotes gender equality by linking to feminist movements. Studying women's history helps dismantle stereotypes, challenges the notion that this is how it's always been. With my extensive background in education, leadership, and curriculum development, I'm committed to supporting this initiative every step of the way. We aim to present this proposal to the State Board of Education and Texas Education Agency in Austin, targeting the 2024-2025 academic school year. If approved, EPISD will be the trailblazers, setting a model for schools throughout the state of Texas. We understand that exploring women's history can be controversial. As a result, our approach to these topics is thoughtful and impartial, ensuring accessibility to all high school students across Texas. This course is not only a vital addition to our curriculum, but it's also a personal passion of mine as a single mother of 3 young girls enrolled in our Texas public school system. I have been teaching women's and gender studies courses to UTEP students for over 6 years, and my academic journey, including my doctoral studies in transnational feminism in Umeå, Sweden, and research on women in STEM at UTEP has shown me the transformative power of understanding women's diverse roles in history. I have a personal interest in ensuring that my own daughters, as well as all the young women across Texas, have the opportunity to learn about women's contributions, struggles, and triumphs. Unveiling history will equip our students with critical thinking skills, foster cultural competence, and ensure a deeper appreciation for the complexities of gender, culture, and class. Thank you for the support and enthusiasm as we embark on this journey to empower our students with a richer, more inclusive understanding of history. Let's make history together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ortega. That concludes our speakers. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second. That's a motion by Trustee Hanani, a second by Trustee Irabali. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That item passes 5-0 with Trustee Call and Trustee Cuellar not present. This will take us to item 6I-14. I have a speaker, Mr. Rossmore.
Board President Arabali, board members, Ms. Saavedra, my name is Ross Moore, President El Paso AFT. I rise to ask some questions about RFQ 24-027. These are why questions, but you know I'm concerned about all things bond, and I don't mean James. I reviewed the documentation earlier this week and again this morning just to make sure nothing had changed, so let's start. Why is there no dollar figure anywhere on in the agenda, the summary of the agenda item, or the 5 attachments? Are you writing a blank check? Writing lawyers a blank check is not good stewardship nor particularly wise. Is it a tippy top secret expenditure of taxpayer dollars? That rubs up against your claims of transparency. Next question, why is another out-of-house counsel needed when EPISD has a very talented in-house counsel who meets the 5 years experience requirement and HR's out-of-house counsel whose firm does as well? If times are as fiscally tight and uncertain as portrayed, how is another out-of-house counsel prudent or affordable? Why is EPISD adding $600 million, more likely billion counting interest to its current $1.2 billion debt load, fiscally responsible and financially prudent? Is EPISD going to be even able to make the payments and operate at the high level you want to operate at with that debt load? You never thought you'd hear me talk about debt load, did you? Why is the RFQ number 24-027 instead of 24007 if it's all about bonds? Why is EPISD planning to further cut employee incomes through property tax increases of their bonds, not James, at the same time city and county are looking at sizable bonds, not James again, or notes of obligation? Property taxes are going to go up, and whether you rent or own, it's going to hurt. Lastly, why am I not apologizing for the bad James Bond references? Answer, because some levity is needed, however bad, when discussing EPISD's debt load. As Jimmy Buffett wisely and prudently said, if we couldn't laugh, we'd all go insane. Thank you very much. These are questions you need to ask, particularly why was there no dollar figure?
Ms. Aguirre?
Good evening, President Irabali, board members, Superintendent Saavedra, Martha Aguirre, Chief Financial Officer. And just a little background regarding this our request for qualifications. So every district, because we have debt that we pay off on an annual basis due to current and past bonds, we are required to have a bond counsel when it comes to financing or releasing any type of financing tools for the district on the district's behalf. So the bond counsel is simply at the time of a financing transaction that is needed, we would utilize the bond council to support and review the bonds that the district would be issuing.
It's my understanding that it's at an as-needed basis?
That
Is
is
that
correct.
the reason why there's no specific dollar amount?
It is on an as-needed basis, and this agenda item is specifically to award the bid, the RFQ, to the entity that is identified. However, the actual contract has not, negotiations have not begun.
Okay.
So the award comes first, and then the contract comes second at the next board meeting?
Trustee Nanny?
Yeah, just a couple of questions to put on the record. It's been the same bond counsel for the past 5 years, correct? This was just a new RFQ, and we're basically just extending out the 5 years?
That's correct.
And can you confirm for the record that there's no retainer for the bond counsel, and they are paid out of whenever there is a financing transaction?
That is correct.
Will that be made available for the public?
Yes, all those documents are public documents once an actual transaction is made, and you're correct. The payment of the services are through that actual financing tool.
And then last question, can you just confirm that the bond counsel is not paid, are they paid hourly? Is that on their contract?
So at this time, because we don't have an actual contract in place to review, I don't have that information, but that is more than likely.
And it'll just be on the contract itself?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I thank you for clarification of any misinformation that might have been presented to the public.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion? I will move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by trustee Arvali, a second by trustee Call. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any in opposition? That item passes 6-0 with trustee Cuellar not present. This will take us to item J1 through J8 and item K1. As mentioned previously, in an effort to remain transparent and above reproach, I will be recusing myself from these items. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second? It's a motion by trustee Call, a second by Dr. Loveridge. All in favor?
Aye.
That item passes 5-0 with one abstention. This will take us to item 7A, discuss and take appropriate action on selection of delegate and alternate at 2024 TASA-TASB conference. Sorry, that takes us to item 7A, discussion and take appropriate action on selection of delegation alternate to 2024 TASB conference. So Dr. Loveridge, you're the only one that doesn't know this since you're new, but for the TASB conference, as a member, we get to appoint a delegate that gets to vote on TASB policies, TASB initiatives, things of that nature. It's the entire delegation's brought together, and it's just as you would imagine. Part of going is we appoint a delegate and an alternate to the process. That's what this is. We get the packet information in advance. Does anyone want to volunteer to be our delegate this year?
We usually volunteer the new people.
I like that.
We usually voluntold the new people.
I volunteer myself.
Does anyone want to be the alternate? Okay, so I have Dr. Loveridge volunteering, voluntold, and trustee Beals as the alternate. Is anyone else would like to be considered? Perfect. Does someone want to make a motion to that regard?
Move to approve?
And for the record, she's moving to approve that Dr. Loveridge is the delegate and trustee Beals is the alternate. Do I have a second?
Second.
That's a motion by trustee Hanani, a second by trustee Call. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? That item passes 6-0 with trustee Cuellar not present. This will take us to item 8A, report. Overview of 2024-2025 equity-based budget allocation and behavioral health benefits utilization.
So thank you, President Itabali and trustees. At our last budget workshop, there was several questions about our employees accessing mental health care benefits. So we do have staff here prepared to present information and share with you some of the data that we've been able to collect. In addition to that, we will be sharing information about some of the small steps that we've taken to provide equitable staffing to some of our neediest campuses. Although we realize that we still have a lot of work to do in that area, we have made some preliminary or taken some preliminary steps in that direction, and we will continue to work with our equity audit to become more informed and be able to problem solve and address any inequities that are currently present in our system. So I'm going to hand it over to our CFO, Martha Aguirre, and our Human Capital Chief, Patty Cortez, so that they can share some information with you. In addition, they'll end with just a brief overview of where we are with our budget as we approach Monday's budget meeting for the board's consideration and approval of the budget.
Good evening, once again. Marta Aguirre, Chief Financial Officer, and we will be giving you a review, a summary, as Ms. Sayavedra just mentioned. So without further ado, I'll give Ms. Cortez the podium so that she can give you the overview on behavioral health utilization.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Mr. Ribali, board members, and Ms. Sayavedra. As discussed during our prior board workshops, an important topic that was presented, and I appreciate Ms. Hanani's feedback and really digging a little bit further into utilization and how our members are accessing mental health and what options do we have also beyond our health plan. So I'm going to give a quick overview. I know I presented this information for you within the last week or so, but I think it's important to also allow our audience to be aware of what's available to them through our health plan and other means. So the utilization data that we have in front of us identifies how behavioral health is being utilized by our members of the health plan, which includes employees and family members who are part of the plan. And so here we have information that details utilization from January of 2023 through January through December of 2023, and then the new plan year, January of 2024 through April 30th. So as you can see that breakdown, I'll take you to the average number of claimants under our traditional plan is 444 for the year 2023. Now for 2024, of course, that's only information that takes us through 4 months, which is 327 under the traditional plan. And in comparison to our high deductible plan, because that was one of the questions that was posed, is there any differential between how the plan is being utilized for behavioral needs, mental health needs, between our traditional plan and our high deductible plan? So if you take a look at our high deductible plan for 2023, or I'm sorry, for 2023, the average number of claimants was 339. And for our current year, 207 is our average number of claims. We also have numbers identifying our behavioral virtual visits, and as you can see, those are significantly higher, which I think is a good benefit because it shows that there's an initiation and interest in service through those virtual visits, and allows the employees or the members to pursue further if they need to seek visits beyond the virtual visits. We go into our next section and we have our mental health utilization that identifies your use by membership. And what we mean by that is you have a different usage between your member, your dependents, which is your spouse, or your children. And so what we see here is that under our traditional plan, our employees are using the benefit more than our spouse or dependents for both years, 23 and year-to-date for 2024. Now, let me talk about spouse and dependents. So our spouses are at 2% utilization for traditional for 2023 and 4% for the high deductible plan. So it's pretty close in proximity. Our dependents appear to be identical across the board, 39% during the 23 school year and 24 for the traditional, and 42% under the high deductible. Now, if we go to the next slide, just another point that stood out is although the usage is higher under your traditional plan, Your usage for your dependents, your spouse and your children is higher under the high deductible plan. And then, of course, I mentioned earlier, identifying what other services are available for employees if they don't seek the medical plan. So I've talked about having the Employee Assistance Program under UNUM, which offers 3 virtual visits and the opportunity to pursue further support if they need to identify local service. We also I'll go into a slide later in the presentation, there's also local information that we provide to our employees under the benefits website. Also very important, the last bullet here is our on-site nurse, health coach is available to all employees at no cost, so they can seek that initial also appointment to determine what needs they may have, where they can get some further guidance on next steps. And so referring to our additional resources, this page here is under our benefits website, which identifies further assistance for employees if they wish to seek any type of local support for behavioral health. And then lastly, just identifying again the staff that is available from Cigna, which we have a local on-site representative that they can seek an appointment with, as well as the nurse, the coach that can also provide services to our employees. Are there any questions from the board?
So really quickly on and thank you for this information, on the telehealth visits, can you explain what a mental health visit, who a mental health visit would be with? What kind of medical professional?
I would not know the specifics. Now, we do have our consultant here that assists us with analyzing the plan. I think that would probably be a question more for the medical professionals that we would have to identify through Cigna to see exactly what that service looks like.
Yeah, and more, I'm wanting to know the behavioral virtual visits, whether they have the option, I mean, is it a licensed counselor? Is it a psychiatrist or psychologist? Do they have the option? You know, because I've seen what that looks like on the back end, but I'm just not familiar with what that looks like for our employees.
Good evening. I'm Randy McGraw with Hub International. And the reports that were generated to build the summary for you did not itemize the list of the treating clinicians, but for the most part, they should be licensed professional counselors for the entry level. But there's a range of specialties depending on the condition that they're treating. And the only other observation I would have too is that we have the reporting that shows the conditions that they're being seen for. We just didn't feel it was appropriate to put that in the public eye. But there's also clear evidence that a lot of your members are being treated for multiple conditions. So depression, of course, is high on the list. Substance abuse was pretty low, but there could be people that are being seen for multiple conditions by separate providers as well. And Cigna keeps their information very secure, but we could also request an itemization if you like.
Yeah, and more than anything, I was interested, it really was more of the question of when they log in to get a virtual behavior visit, whether they had access to select a licensed professional counselor versus it just being a primary physician. That was a generalist.
We can
so to
find out
speak.
and get more
Yeah,
specifics.
That was the biggest question.
The mic is live. I think it's just needing to speak into it a little bit more.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on the first portion of this meeting? Nope. All right, that will take us to the equity-based budget allocations.
Good evening, President Ubali, Ms. Saavedra, members of the board. Al Garcia, Chief Academic Officer, and I have my team with me. We're going to be talking about opportunities that we looked at in terms of instruction and budget and financing, and the extra opportunities they're providing campuses based on an array of indicators, especially with regards to equity. Looking at the 24-25 budget, we looked at planning and equity in additional areas and adjustments to support the campus need and the population of students that they serve. The following slides summarize the priorities and adjustments and the cost per student at each campus with all funding sources. And then lastly, the charts show campuses sorted from the highest to lowest per student, as well as some differentiated resources that we provide through academics, school leadership, and other areas to the campuses.
So real quick, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that you all have more specific and comprehensive information in this particular packet that's at each one of your areas that you can refer to, aside from the slides that are being presented.
So the first slide is about high schools. You'll notice that in the high schools, this particular year, all high schools were added interventionists, one for reading and one for math. And with that, the opportunity to intervene with students is new this school year. Secondly, we have class size reduction teachers, which we're kind of trying to toy with the name. That is the way they're called through funding, but we're considering other names such as smaller learning communities of students to be able to really curtail and provide prescriptive intervention to those students. They are students who will typically need support daily, and with our current schedule in place, we might double block the students so that they have an extended period of time in algebra, English 1 and English 2, the highest need areas for high school. We've also allocated behavior interventionists that have been added to behavioral support needs. As we all understand and know, behavioral intervention and SEL is something that continues to grow and in need and in support. And then lastly, supplemental instructional support teachers that support both bilingual and at-risk students at all high school levels. You can see to the left, Irvin, and then at the bottom of the list is Franklin, with the cost per student there on the side. Middle school, we continue to have these smaller learning communities of learners, and through our class size reduction teachers, we also have behavior interventionists. These behavior interventionists actually support the campuses with specialized behavior units on their campus. Typically, they're special education units of students that have been placed in a very restrictive setting, and so they support the teachers by helping those teachers and those students develop behavior intervention plans, monitoring the implementation of those plans, and then actually going into classrooms to support them throughout the school day and school year. You'll find those behavior intervention specialists throughout middle, K-8, and elementary schools as well, wherever there's a BIC unit, a behavior intervention class. Also new for middle schools, very excited about this and very proud of the fact that we're introducing Algebra for All. For the following campuses, you'll see the array and the equity being spread across the district with regards to the placement of these Algebra for All teachers and programming, to include Charles, Canyon Hills, Guillen, Brown, Wiggs, and then at the K-8s, Tinajero and, wrong way, and Bobby Joe Hill. At the Pre-K-8s, we continue to support the interventionist by supporting the needs serving the elementary and middle school curriculum. We also have the class size reduction teachers, in particular only at Tinajero, based on demographics and student performance. We also have the Algebra for All, as I mentioned, and then we also have focus on family specialists, which are social workers that support the campuses with the highest needs. As a matter of fact, last week I met with the lead of the social workers, and she and I spoke about alignment of some of the campuses share part-time social workers and alignment of proximity, and looking at this campus such as Guillen that has a high need, and Hart who has similar needs, and ensuring that the campuses that have higher priority and need are prioritized and have a full-time person. And then lastly, at the elementary, you can see the spectrum of services we provide to include campus teaching coaches and academic interventionists, two of each at each campus. We have behavior interventionists, as I mentioned before, to support the behavior intervention class. We do have the new elementary fine arts expansion happening at 20 campuses. And then we have a parent liaison provided half or full-time based on their demographics of that school. And then the focus on family specialists and social workers, at least half a full-time at 35 elementary campuses based on need. As we look at what are our next steps, we need to kind of look at the high schools, and equity adjustments are bringing more resources to the highest need campuses to ensure that those students are being served, that those priority campuses are channeled more funds and more support, and that there's an accountability piece built in so that we can ensure that with these equity ads and FTEs, that we're monitoring their progress throughout the school year. In the smaller campuses, particularly elementary campuses, you would see that there was a higher operating cost to override, even though we've made some equity adjustments, because of the size of the school, it looks like we're investing more in some schools than others, even though there may not be such a high equity need. And that's just because of the size, and the number is divided by the number of students, so the average per cost student is higher at some of those campuses. And then lastly, administration is recommending an additional $50 of infused funds through state comp ed added to tier 3 campuses for the 24-25 school budget. And as we look at our equity audit with our partner to ensure that their recommendations are being carried out, we look forward to that feedback and to adjusting our support and intervention. The team is here to answer any specific questions about any of these particular people, their role, and how they support schools through equity, and we're open to questions.
Trustee Hernandez?
I have two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
One is about how we categorize Tier 1 and Tier 3 schools, no, Tier 2 and 3, and what is meant by AVID is being piloted at 2 medical
Yes,
schools.
ma'am. I
except-
totally glossed over that. I'm sorry, I got a little nervous, and I went really fast. But we are piloting AVID, and that is a college preparatory program that we can have all the way from the elementary all the way to high school. And we're going to be focusing really in 2 campuses. One is the feeder pattern for Andrus and the feeder pattern for Bowie at those 2 schools. We are going to be adding both mechanical and aerospace collegiate academies at both of those schools, and so the middle schools that feed into them, you know, AVID is an opportunity for students to understand the rigor and level and study skills that are required of those courses. So they teach them things like organizing their homework, you know, taking 2 and 3 column notes, the importance of writing in the content areas. All of those important strategies are part of the AVID structures that will begin at the middle schools, and as we grow those programs into those 2 high schools, both Bowie and Andrus, the program will grow with them.
Well, and AVID stands for Advancing Via Independent Determination.
Yes.
And so it's a national program that's been in place for a number of years. We're starting with these 2 feeder patterns. I know that, if I'm not mistaken, Franklin also has AVID already active at that high school. AVID has expanded their programs. They started at the high school level. Several years ago, they kind of moved to middle school. And I would say within the last decade, they've increased that to elementary offerings as well. And so our goal long-term is to really build pipelines of support so that students can access college and career readiness courses in the form of AP, because we know that when they graduate with AP credits, dual credits, and/or rigorous coursework, they're more prone to succeed in in higher education. And so that's kind of the intent of bringing AVID back.
Would you be able to provide us with a schedule of other high schools that will be coming up for that AVID program?
We're going to start with these 2 feeder patterns, and then we'll work over the course of the year to determine what expansion efforts we'll go to next in 25-26. Some of that will be based on our ability to continue to fund and how quickly we can expand over time.
So we're going to just start with the Bowie and Andrus feeder schools and leave out the other high schools until?
We're piloting at those two feeder patterns. And then as we pilot, we'll determine what that expansion might look like as we look at other feeder patterns.
Okay, thank you.
I think she had another question about the tier 2 and tier 3.
Yes. So this is tiering based on last year's school data, and we use a sort of an array of indicators to include school size and demographics. But when I was in school leadership, I was a team effort. We looked at school performance levels and then ranked the schools based on their tier. And really, they were ranked according to support that we felt they probably would need. And so a lot of support through to the academics department, the school leadership, as a joint effort. So the higher performing the school, the lower the tier. So maybe your tier 1 schools that are performing really well might include some like Tippin, for example. And the schools that were struggling by an array of indicators, or there was a new principal. So there was a variety of things that we looked at. Might be like, for example, Zavala Elementary that it was a new principal. The performance data on STAR and other measures wasn't quite up to par. So they were labeled as a tier 3 school. So that is why we tier both according to the academic need and also the demographics of the school.
So therefore, our criteria is based on
Yes, ma'am.
how we define it.
Yes, ma'am. And they will be updated. I believe next week are getting our final Domain 3 scores, and we'll have to go through another exercise where we look at all our school data to include MAP data. Because MAP data, I know I brought to the board some expected outcomes, and they met or exceeded, for the most part, those outcomes. That'll be factored into that tiering process as well.
We also look at the tenure of the staff and any turnover rates. Again, Mr. Garcia mentioned that we also think about whether we have a new principal there, and there might need to be added support because of a new principal. So there's a number of different factors that we use to determine how we tier the campuses.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You have any, Trustee Hanani?
So thank you for providing this information. As we look at the budgets for the schools, I think it's actually really important that we continue to show it this way to the community. I was actually looking last week at the Comprehensive Center Network, which had the breakout of the per pupil expenditure. And I think it's jarring because you have a lot of campuses where there's a high per pupil expenditure because of the size of the school. And so I think that's where we see the mixed bag of tier 1 and tier 3 campuses spread throughout. So I guess the question would be going forward, and I think this is the work that is going to be done probably with the root cause analysis, is how we determine an equity needs index for these students, so that we're not seeing some of our tier 1 schools rising to the top or our tier 3 schools rising to the bottom. You know, I see some of these schools, Douglas, for example, is pretty far down the list, and it's a tier 3 school. And so I think that's where we have that need to provide a system, a needs index, as we move forward, because it just seems to be a lot of general or systemic appropriations based on entitlements, or, you know, just the general funding, you know, the interventions are kind of broad-based. So I guess my ask would be, and this is something that we've been talking about in different silos, I think, throughout the last couple of weeks, where we've seen the academic outcomes, and I've shared this with Ms. Saavedra, I've shared this with you actually, and just sharing it in public, would be that we have the board reports for academics, and just more of a request at the board level that the board spends more time on the monitoring calendar, the monitoring pieces. I know there are boards that actually track the number of minutes that they spend talking about academic outcomes, academic achievement. And so I think as we sort of are coming off this round of score releases, I just think, you know, my request is more for the board to do a better job of providing that guidance for the monitoring pieces, because I think if we're not tracking our board minutes towards academic outcomes, I think we're the ones that are doing the disservice. And so that would be my ask, is that the board level where we can possibly have something, President Irabali, where we're discussing the monitoring calendar, so that we're, having those conversations and can be talking about all of these things, just not all at once, but throughout the year.
And I know that we've had discussions of really tapering off on some of our facilities reports and spending more time on academic reports, and also readjusting the agenda to include the reports at the beginning of the meeting, so that there's adequate time for the board, to ask questions and really, internalize some of the information. I think that the discussion that we had earlier today about board operating procedures will also allow us to have some workshop conversations where we're intentionally having conversations about where we are at any given point in time in the school year when we think about student outcomes, rather than just at the tail end. I know that in a conversation with Mr. Call, he expressed some of the same requests as what you're sharing, Ms. Hanani. Like, I want to know at the first 9 weeks, where do we think we should be? At this point, where do we think we should be? What is the data how are we what signals are telling us where we are at that point in time, rather than always having to look back in the rearview mirror, right? So.
Well, and one of the things that I saw just in the last week, as I was watching a board meeting, was just sort of expressing cohort by cohort for reports into the community, even tracking where a cohort is at the end of the year, at the beginning of the next year, and kind of identifying the gaps in the middle, but just so that the community and the board learns how to track cohort students, because you all know, working in the district, where you can anticipate a group of students will be based on last year's STAR scores to next year's STAR scores. But I think a lot of that gets lost because we just don't have that monitoring cycle. So my next question, President Irabali, is because we already have the board goals and the superintendent evaluation goals in place, what can we do to maybe have a facilitator come in and maybe help facilitate the conversation about the monitoring calendar, so that we're following the governance piece the way we should be?
It's a perfect segue to kind of what I was going to bring up, which is at the recent SGS, the System of Great Schools, a large part of the conversation was rooted in that, really getting this board back online with where the board should be spending their time. Part of that is we are going to be given several professionals in the space to really mentor our staff, but also have individuals that are going to support the board, as well as looking at what we need to do as far as tracking those attendance goals. Part of what we saw here, Crawley ISD was implementing as well, and kind of gave some good feedback that Dr. Loveridge and I both were a part of that session. So I think working in tandem with them and Holsworth and using those expertise that we get a part of being those cohort, coming in, building out that cycle. And then I know the superintendent and I just talked about this, I believe yesterday or throughout the weekend, recommitting to the team of 8. Now that we have a full team of 8, really jumping in there, making sure we're prioritizing the right things. So it's coming, I can tell you that. With the superintendent, I'd love to engage with you on that so we can collaborate and definitely build that out, knowing that you have expertise, especially in the academics piece, so we can get that implemented for August and onward.
One of the things that we talked about specifically is that in my first semester here, if you remember, we started with board training early on, and then every month we had some additional board training. And so, as Mr. Idabali indicated, now that we have a full team of 8, it might be important for us to go back and revisit some of that training, as you said, but more focused on the monitoring piece of academics. And again, there are board supports, both from the System of Great Schools piece and also from the Holsworth piece. So we'll have to assess or determine at any given point in time which resource might be the best for us to tap into at that time. There's also the Lone Star governance that we have not necessarily gone through, and so that needs to be a conversation with the board to determine whether that's the path that we want to take as we, think about spending more of our time talking about student outcomes.
Yeah, and I think even Lone Star governance, it's gone through its own phases of renewal, or, kind of how it's even gone through its own, there's adjustments. There's different forms of governance. I personally like what would be considered empowered governance, which allows sort of policy to be a factor in how boards can be the bridge between constituency and the district. But I guess just to have some clarity, what would be your recommendation, President Irabali, on next steps, just so that I can put some teeth in the ground here? Do you think it should be like an ad hoc committee where we can sort of map out? I just want to be able to have from here, how do you think we'll map out the first phases of this so we can sort of get that moving? Because I think a lot of the work we've actually already done. I mean, to go back and start with the whole Lone Star governance probably wouldn't be the best thing, because we have a 3 to 5 year map out of what our goals should be, and they're very, very comprehensive, and I would say more comprehensive than most school districts between the evaluation tool and the actual House Bill 3 goals. We just are not providing the monitoring piece as the board, so I'd love to have that conversation and map it out with you, but I don't want to leave this meeting without having a better plan.
So I will tell you, and I did recognize this at SGS, what I recognize is even though we're a year one school in this brand new cohort, we're actually much further ahead because a lot of this work is already being done, where they're kind of reevaluating their goals, looking at where they're doing the system for the superintendent. So what I'd like to recommend is we kind of wait and see what information they collect from SGS as their mentors, what the Holsworth group says, and as we ascertain what's happening kind of with the staff and the administration of which place we're getting, we can simultaneously have a conversation. If there's anyone else who wants to be a part of that, we can do that and kind of map out the things as well that you're thinking to see, and then see how that lines up with what kind of training they're going through, because they do provide board support and they do already strategizing to come to El Paso, where we as a board would collectively get together and meet with them as well. So I'd hate to make plans now and then have them kind of disrupt that with coming in. So if you can give us just until that July date, I think we can comprehensively build out a team of 8 scheduled training schedules and all the other accountability pieces that you want to look at.
I think one place where we really could start in terms of not necessarily the training for the board, but we are planning to provide an academic update in August, and part of that academic update can really roll out, here's a draft calendar for you all to consider, and then being able to fill in, what would we cover and how would we chunk that information, as we think about it going forward, right? And so, we can do some internal conversations about how that calendar might look. I think the training, I'll defer to Mr. Itabali, but in terms of the internal work that the administration can do to provide the board some just options for us to consider, because we do have a monitoring calendar that we drafted. Again, I'm not sure how closely we followed it, to be honest. And so we need to get back on track to make sure that there's quarterly pieces, but in between there's monthly pieces, and really mapping out what data will we know we have at certain points in the year that would be critical to present to the board, that would signal to you all where we are in terms of progress and where we expect our outcomes to be based on that information, right? So I think it's a multiple things. It's the board, it's us preliminary putting a calendar together, us looking at our assessment calendars and knowing when critical data is going to be available, and using all of that to kind of develop a cadence for us to be having academic conversations at each one of our board meetings.
Yeah, and then there's a transparency piece to that too, which is why, as much as I appreciate the work style, I think it is really important that we're talking about academic outcomes at every single regular board meeting. I would go so far as to say we actually should start tracking our minutes. And I think the final request that I would have is perhaps maybe start looking at a board evaluation, if we could start evaluating ourselves as a board, because it is, ultimately, it is our responsibility to, yes, well, the district should follow the monitoring calendar. It's ultimately our responsibility to make sure that those things are on the agenda, that we've tasked the district with having the right conversations, and that we're talking about those things at the way we should be at every board meeting for the public. And so whether it's, maybe it's a quarterly, maybe just the way you get evaluated quarterly, maybe we have a quarterly board self-evaluation, so that we're having this conversation, and so that we're actually tracking if we're doing what we're going to be doing.
Thank you.
If I may say so myself, my term is going to end at the May of 2025. So if you want to, speed up the process, I'm here available for that. But that's as far as I'm going to be serving.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. This will take us to, I'm going backwards, to 2024-2025 compensation and budget.
Were there any other questions? I didn't know if, did you have any questions? No, I just wanted to make sure we didn't.
No? Okay. So as we wrap up tonight's report, I just wanted to share over the last couple of months, we've met once a month since starting in March, so it's been 4 budget workshops that we've held. We've done a lot of, collaborating and had good discussions on how do we develop and propose a budget for next year that obviously has challenges, as we realize that our funding is not at the same level that we've had in prior years. And so as we move forward, I just wanted to give you kind of like the big pieces of the conversations that we've had and what will be presented on Monday's budget adoption meeting. And so this is a summary of what our compensation plan is being proposed and the financial impact. As you are aware, we are not proposing an actual pay increase at this time, but we are doing some revisions to some of our extra performance-based stipends and our miscellaneous pay rates. We are doing a one-time infusion into our healthcare program fund, which is critical in order to continue to support and sustain that program. We are not going to place any type of impact or additional increases to our employee contributions. And so the district has agreed to, or the board is considering the approval of that infusion of $4.4 million in total. And as far as miscellaneous pay rates and substitute rates, those are rates that we've upgraded in some areas, but are not a budgetary impact specifically to the entire budget. When we look at the costs, it'll be a $4.8 million impact to the operating budget. And as we had shared and discussed at the prior meeting on June 4th, our impact to the future years, if nothing changes and we continue operating as we are, we'd be having a $15.9 million deficit that we would have to consider for next fiscal year 26, and 25 in fiscal year 27. When we move on, this is going to be what we refer to as our budget snapshot of our general operating fund. The board is required to adopt the budget by fund and function, and so we've broken down our expenditures by function. You can see there that we're anticipating $529 million of revenue. You can see at the very top of the tip of the roof of our little schoolhouse that we do have a $12 million shortfall when we look at our revenue compared to last year's revenue. And when you look at the right side, those are our expenditure, our allotments to the budget. And so we have $542 million of proposed expenditures. So as we've had conversations, we've talked about where is our fund balance and how can we adopt a budget that meets the needs of the district. So the $12 million will be proposed to use a unreserved or unassigned fund balance. And if we go to the next slide, this kind of gives you a snapshot of where we are with our fund balance. So I am happy to announce when we look at the 23-24 school year, which is our current year we're working or about to close out, we have 88 days that we started the fiscal year with in fund balance. And when we're projecting our end-of-year fund balance, we are projecting 82 days. So I'm happy to announce that between June 4th and now, we received some additional revenue projections that are going to help us increase our fund balance by 2 more days as we finish this year. When we look at year 24-25, we start up with the 82 days that we just mentioned. Then we are proposing the use of a $12 million fund balance request to cover the shortfall in expenses. We are also asking for $6 million allocation, which is 4 days of fund balance for our capital replacement plan and some new initiatives. So when we start with 82 days and utilize these days of fund balance, if nothing changes, we would see a projected ending balance of fund balance for next year, June 2025, of 69 days, 69.69. Now, on the right side, I do have a little box with some of the conversations we've had through the last couple of workshops where how do we offset some of the use of fund balance that we're proposing. So we've listed a different attempts and resources that we're gonna use to save money as we go through the fiscal year, so that we don't end in such a low level of fund balance by the time 25 is finalized. So you do see there that we have talked about potential recoup of 12 days. However, it's important to note that this is a proposal, or we're going to work through that, but the actual fund balance, if nothing occurs, is the 2 gray boxes.
So those are opportunities for savings, but they're not guaranteed if we don't, meet those dollar amounts, right?
That's correct. And that's all I have for this evening. Our next meeting is on Monday to hopefully adopt the budget and compensation plan. And then again, we would come back in August to adopt the tax rates for maintenance and operations and debt service.
Other questions from the board? No? Maybe? No? So, in a tribute to Mr. Moore's napkin math, I'm going to present Post-it in math. So I just want to be very, very clear on this. I think, I know these trustees, so I'm going to speak on the first half from, I think, what I know they go through, and then I'll speak for myself. But this is by far one of the most challenging years that we've ever had as a board. And it's something that none of us here take lightly. While the rhetoric's out there, you don't care about the rank and file, you don't care about employees, you only care about the bloated central office, all the negative rhetoric that follows us, there's absolutely zero truth to this. I've never met a more compassionate team than the people I see before me, because I know they're losing sleep over what's happening in this budget. Knowing that the state financial system's not meeting the needs of our students, not doing what we need to do to pay our teachers the way they should, this team is that front line trying to go through every possibility to find a way out and get the staff at EPISD what they deserve. So I just want to put that to bed and to rest right away. Now for myself, the way I look at this is not just a one-year problem. The real conversations that we're starting to have is, I can provide a $1,000 stipend. I'll use what Mr. Moore is requesting. Mr. Moore is requesting 2 $2,000 stipends, which would cost the district for 1 year $32.612 million. I could make that decision. I could advocate for that. I could fight for that. But if the state doesn't come back with financing that's going to help a school district out, the next conversation we're going to be having in DDR is, well, we can't afford to keep everyone, like this board is already committed to do. So now this board has to make those really tough decisions of what's more important today. Two $2,000 stipends, one at the summer or winter and end of year, or ensuring that every employee in our district maintains employment, they maintain their health care so that they can afford food on their table, so that they can pay for the electricity, they can maintain living in a home, they can maintain that financial stability. And that's really the game that we're playing right now, because we can survive this year. Don't get me wrong, I know that. We did a very good job for the last several years holding the line. If you guys recall, it was this board last year that narrowly escaped having a last-minute increase for our teachers up to 5%, and SLPs moved up. Without knowing what that cost was at all, we narrowly escaped that, where other school districts did not. Because of the diligence of this board, we're able to have these conversations today. And I just want to, thank our team. You guys put a lot of work into this. You guys spend a lot of time educating us on this. But it by no means is an easy decision. I know Monday's going to come here sooner than I think we want. But just some information I want to throw out there before we before the other trustees have an opportunity. Looking across this, $1,000 stipend is $8.153 million. $2,000 stipend is $16 million. $3,000 is $24 million, and a $4,000 is $32.6 million. So as we look at our 306 positions, which are your registrars, your secretaries, and your attendance clerks, we're looking at a 10.6 increase with a $4,000 stipend, more than what we did with a 7% increase. As we look at our teacher pay scale, the midpoint $61,082, that's a 6.54% increase by doing this kind of a stipend. And when we look at our fund balance, we're going to end up at I believe it was 69.69, 69.69 days. The projected, I'm going to call it a demand as it was reported in the news, of the 2,000 stipends, that's going to equate to 22 days, if I'm not mistaken. That's going to bring us down to 47 days. That puts us in that very dangerous window that we as a school district have committed not to ever wanting to be a part of. When we look at FIRST, which helps determine our credit ranking, you get full points if you're at 75 days. But if you dip below that, you automatically are at risk of getting a B as the highest level that you can get. That affects our bond rating. That affects our interest rates. That affects everything that this district has worked hard for and puts at risk what we can and cannot do. So as we look at the conversation and the decision on Monday, I just kind of want to put that on the level playing field of when your trustees up here are working on this, it's not some frivolous, let's throw numbers out here. We have done the math. We have bargained. We have done everything we can besides lie, cheat, and steal to make sure we're doing the best job that we can do for our employees. I respect the rank and file. You talk to any individual in EPISD that has met me face to face. I've spent time with them. I've given them the time of day, and I've listened. That's what I'm willing to do. But that's by no indication what I can do here on paper and what I can do with their numbers. So thank you very much. I know you guys have worked really hard on this. I know every financial season is very difficult. This one's extremely difficult, as we're seeing across the state. But I'll leave it up to if there's any other trustees that would like to say anything. Trustee Anani?
Yeah, I had one question. The 2024-2025 projected ending fund balance, does that include the infusion of property sales?
No.
Okay. How much is that?
Well, at this point, the only thing that I can share with property sales is that we know that I think it's Bonham is still in the queue, but the closing hasn't happened for that, and we won't see a benefit from that until August or September.
No, I was just wondering what the amount was, just because we had spoken about it at the last one, so I couldn't recall the exact amount.
I think it's a little over 4.
Yes, I believe it was a total of about 4 days. I'm trying to find my notes, sorry.
Yeah, that was it. That was my only question.
Okay, all right.
And the last thing I do want to say, because I forgot to mention this as my notes, being in these conversations towards the end of last year, Ms. Saavedra, Ms. Aguirre, and Ms. Cortez, who are usually the trio that I meet with on this, have diligently worked to see if there's any capacity for stipends. This is something that has always been at the forefront of their conversation, either through ESSER, fund balance, whatever mechanism they could. It's my understanding that we're not done looking. We're still shaking the cushions out and seeing what kind of money falls out. So again, just, I look forward to Monday because I know that you guys have put in the work and you guys have put the information out there in a fair and honest and transparent manner. And I think we as a board have more information than most, and that makes me very proud. Trustee Call?
I was going to say this for Monday, but might as well say it now just to wrap things up and set the stage for Monday. Serving as a trustee the last 5+ years, it's these budgets are always really, difficult situations because everybody wants to, honor our employees. All of us up here want to honor our employees, and the question for me is that how do you best honor those employees? Because there's one school of thought that we, should just go for broke right now in the short term and, put the pedal to the metal and give as much raises or as many stipends as we possibly can in the short term. But, and our board has resisted that as a whole has resisted that impulse the last number of years that I've been here. And I think obviously that's the right thing to do, because it puts us in a really good, I wouldn't say good financial situation, but a better financial situation than some of the, some of the other districts in our area see. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I would just urge the board to do the right thing for the long-term financial health, safety, and responsibility of our school district, because I don't know about anybody else, but I don't want to be looking into the faces of people that we have to let go because we were too aggressive on compensation increases in the short term so that we have to pay for it in the long term. So anyway, I know it's going to be a tough meeting on Monday, but I would just hope that we focus on the long term, honoring our employees in the long term.
Well, so like I said, thank you all so much. Really, the thrust of the report was to make sure that you all had good information about the health care questions that you had from the last board workshop, that you had a good understanding of how we're prioritizing funding for some of the highest needs campuses and how that plays out in the overall budget as we forecast and look towards Monday for the board's consideration and adoption of the final budget.
This will take us to item 9, items of next month's agenda. A, overview future board meeting agenda items.
So as you know, next board meeting is Monday, where we'll be considering and proposing the budget for the board to adopt. We will have a formative superintendent evaluation opportunity as well. In July, just a reminder, no board meeting in July. In August, we'll be providing you all with an academic update, giving you more information about where we are in terms of student outcomes. In addition to that, as Ms. Aguirre indicated, we'll be having a public meeting to discuss the proposed tax rate for the M&O operations and debt service. And then as we come back in September, the board will actually adopt the tax rate. So those are some of the big ticket items going forward. Like I said, Monday, June, and then, August, and then September. So that's what we have going forward.
And in August, we will be bringing our board operating procedures.
Oh, that's right, the
for
board operating
ratification and
procedures.
adoption. Okay, that brings us to item number 10, adjournment. We're going to call this meeting at 7:03. Thank you, everyone.